Two sisters' ranches saved by mail-order marriages. 5 shocking secrets they never expected. Emma stared at the mountain of bills sprawling across the dining room table, the flickering candle casting shadows on their faces. The weight of their family legacy pressed down on her more than ever, a ranch that had once flourished, now teetering on the brink of foreclosure. "We can't let this die, Claire," she whispered, fighting against the tide of despair that threatened to drown her resolve. The sun dipped low, the warm glow outside contrasting with the icy grip of uncertainty tightening inside. Claire, her younger sister, leaned back, eyes distant. "But what if there's a life beyond this, Emma? We could—" Her voice faltered, caught in a tug-of-war between dreams and responsibilities. The two women had been raised to frown upon failure, to uphold their family's honor. Yet here they were, trapped by a failing agricultural economy, haunted by memories of carefree childhood days spent galloping through boundless pastures. In a moment of frustrated inspiration, Claire proposed a radical idea. With so little left to cling to, why not look for love through a mail-order marriage? Emma recoiled, the very thought sending tremors through her core. "You want to marry a stranger? That's insane." Yet uncertainty gnawed at her, fraying her nerves. What was the difference between desperation and a fresh start? Neither of them had any practical solutions left. Before they could delve deeper, Claire interjected. "Listen, before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can, leave a like. It really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Emma rubbed her temples, attempting to ease the tension gathering like storm clouds in her mind. They had exhausted every resource, every bank and credit line. Would marrying someone for the sake of raising the ranch be more of a betrayal or a lifeline? The shame of compromise prickled her skin. Claire's voice broke through her thoughts, infectious yet laced with urgency. "Emma, we might meet people who understand our struggles, who could become more than just partners. They might love this land just as much as we do." Yet with every anticipated message from a match, every shareable laugh turned bittersweet, came growing revelations. Emma's match, once a dream of compatibility, harbored secrets that weighed heavy, his history of reckless investments that threatened our dreams.
Claire's charming counterpart revealed an ambition that overshadowed their shared values, aiming for a life in the city that could leave their ranch behind. The sisters fell into silence, drowning in waves of disappointment and fear. The choices they made felt increasingly encumbered by emotional stakes. Confidence crumbled, their hearts raced with dread. How could they bind themselves to strangers when their own needs tugged them in different directions? What if these new commitments only drained their resolve further, pulling them away from everything they knew and loved? Standing at the precipice of their future, hearts thundering, they realized that love and loyalty could evolve into shackles too. The impending decisions pressed upon them, a blaring siren in the distance. Just as clarity seemed to inch forward, their phones buzzed in unison with alarming news, a call that bore more shocking truths, revealing fractures they hadn't anticipated, leaving them gasping for breath. What awaited them next would challenge everything they knew, unraveling their fragile hopes even more. Emma's mind whirred with uncertainty as her phone chimed again, dragging her focus back to the reality of their situation. The notification on the screen read, "Urgent, ranch audit scheduled." Her heart sank, knowing this was the last thing they could afford. Frantically, she glanced at Claire, whose pale face mirrored her own dread. The sisters' dream of saving their family ranch suddenly seemed further away than ever. "An audit?" Claire asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What does that even mean?" "It means they're coming to evaluate our assets. If they find we're not meeting the requirements—" Emma's voice trailed off as a grim silence filled the air. The stakes were crippling,
a fear that pushed against Emma's resolve, compelling her to regain control. "We need a plan, now." Claire looked hesitant, perhaps battling her own mix of fear and fatigue. "But our last investors, didn't they leave us with more debt? What can we possibly present?" "I don't know, Claire. This land has memories, but it also has potential, something we're not tapping into. We have skills, abilities that we haven't fully explored." Emma's determination sharpened. "There must be a way to make this work." Moving to the kitchen, she began rifling through documents, old accounts and records that had long gathered dust. She needed to see what they had left to offer. With each page, a disjointed history unfurled, farming techniques passed down generations, livestock lineage documented meticulously, and their mothers' handwritten plans for rotational grazing that had never been executed. A soft voice chimed in. "Emma, what if we sell it all? Get out while we can." Emma froze. "And leave behind everything our parents worked for? Everything we dreamed of?" "Sometimes it's better to start over," Claire persisted, "so we don't drown in these debts."
The discussion spiraled into an exploration of prospects, futures, and impossible choices. As Emma forced herself to think pragmatically, she caught a glimpse of their mother's old gardening book, a text steeped in tradition and nostalgia, but also bursting with possibilities for modern farming techniques she had never considered before. "I wonder," Emma said, her voice dropping to an almost tentative whisper, "what if we demonstrate that we can adapt, use these forgotten techniques, find a niche, transform the ranch?" Claire molded over, her brow furrowing. "I think we can incorporate local farmers markets, maybe even a social media push showcasing regenerative agriculture. That might spark interest." Excitement began to pulse through Emma, lifting the fog of despair. Yet as quickly as it came, doubt flooded back. "But what will we say about the financial situations? The truth will be revealed during the audit." The complexity of their newfound hope came wrapped in fear, for every required advancement seemed to stretch their capabilities. They needed assistance, help beyond just each other. After hours of brainstorming, Emma turned to Claire, a determined glint igniting her eyes. "It's time we reach out for not just the knowledge, but the community too. Let's find experts, mentors who can guide us through this. We can't do it alone anymore." As she began drafting a plan to seek advice from local agricultural specialists online, a sense of empowerment surged. This would be their fight, but it would no longer be a solitary struggle. Just as Emma hit send on an email, another notification chimed. It was another match, this time one that literally said, "Looking to partner in the ranching community." Emma's pulse quickened. Could this be a coincidence, or potentially a lifeline? With renewed hopes and lingering doubts about who they were becoming, Emma thought the time had come to face the unknown. Suddenly, uncertainty didn't just challenge them, it beckoned them forward, compelling each sister to embrace the very change they once feared. Emma's fingers hovered over the screen, contemplating her instincts and emotions. She felt the tug of excitement mixed with an undertone of fear. The notion of reaching out was daunting, yet it also opened doors to possibilities she had never considered. What if this connection could provide the expertise they desperately needed? "Let's follow up on that message," Emma said decisively, glancing at Claire. Her sister's expression shifted from uncertainty to reluctant agreement. It was a small victory, yet it felt monumental in the face of their looming audit. They ran through the details of their fledgling plan, weighing their resources against the harsh reality of their debts. Emma focused on finding a rhythm in her thoughts. A partnership could add credibility, and the right skills could revamp their failing operations into something sustainable, perhaps even profitable.
Determination swelled within her, igniting a newfound passion for learning and adapting. Hours passed as they dissected their mother's garden book, marking relevant sections, taking notes, and brainstorming practical steps. Emma's mind raced with ideas, each one propelling her forward. Yet there was an underlying anxiety,
a voice that whispered doubts about how they would actually implement these changes. Daily routines slipped into the background as her vision began to crystallize, crafting a portrait of hope amid turmoil. Okay, first things first, Emma began to strategize out loud. We need to attend that local farmers' meeting next week. I'll call and reserve our spots. We can't just hope this partnership finds us without putting ourselves out there. Claire nodded, her initial doubt softening. That sounds good. We should prepare our pitch, too. We need to know specifically what we're asking for. Emma sensed Claire's willingness to engage, a crucial shift. It felt as if the two of them had turned a corner in their resolve. That spark could grow into something far brighter. And let's use social media to showcase what we're doing. It doesn't just have to be about our problems, but could focus on this journey of transformation. But what will we say about our financial situation? Claire asked again, her voice tinged with a cautious edge. Perhaps honesty serves us best, Emma replied thoughtfully. If we frame our financial struggle as an opportunity for growth and community support, it could resonate with others. We can share our setbacks and successes, making our story relatable. Encouraged, Claire offered several practical ideas for posts and updates, and together they drafted a narrative of resilience. Emma felt herself shifting, the weight of uncertainty no longer immobilizing her. Each small action fed her drive. As days turned into a blur of phone calls, emails, and planning sessions, the sisters leapt into action, submitting their application for the farmers' meeting. They documented every milestone, however minor, on social media, cultivating a small audience of supportive followers who began to rally around their story. Each interaction elicited positive feedback, and Emma found reassurance in the budding community they were fostering. But doubts persisted. Could they truly convey their need without feeling vulnerable? With the audit creeping closer and the stakes rising, Emma knew they had to stay focused and maintain transparency in their journey. The reality of their financial situation loomed like a storm cloud, threatening to interrupt their newfound momentum. One evening, as Emma reviewed their progress, her phone chimed again. This time, it was a reply from the potential partner they had reached out to, a seasoned rancher expressing genuine interest in their ideas, offering his assistance. Excitement surged through her, but not without an undercurrent of apprehension.
Was this the turning point they had been waiting for, or merely another distraction on their unpredictable path? Emma's heart raced as she read his message, feeling the pressure of an impending decision. The balance of hope and fear weighed heavily, but she also knew they had taken steps towards the future they wanted. The next choices they made might radically alter their course. As she typed her response, she thought of the looming audit, of the scrutiny they would soon face. Suddenly, it all felt like a game of courage, a test of their commitment to the ranch, to each other, and to their potential for enduring growth. Amid the uncertainty, Emma resolved to accept whatever challenges lay ahead, understanding that embracing the unknown was where true transformation began. The conversation would continue as soon as the sun rose again. Tomorrow would bring fresh challenges, fresh decisions, and the possibility of a second chance. Would they seize it? The dawn crept in slowly, casting a soft glow across the barn where Emma and Claire began their day. The chill in the air somehow mirrored the flickering doubt in Emma's mind. Her heart pounded with the weight of the ranch's future, and she sat at her small desk, replaying the message from the rancher in her head. Each word echoed, mingling with her apprehensions about the audit ahead. "Claire, we need to discuss what his help really entails," Emma said, breaking the silence that had settled like thick fog. "In terms of, You know, it's not just about enthusiasm. We need a solid plan, Claire replied, her brow furrowing as she added more coffee to her cup, clearly feeling the same sense of urgency. Emma tapped her fingers against the desk, contemplating the rancher's experience and insights. I think we should arrange a meeting, maybe at the farmers' meeting. If he's as knowledgeable as he seems, he could help us clarify our direction. Him joining us could raise some eyebrows, though, Claire pointed out with a hint of skepticism. What will others think of bringing in outside assistance? Emma felt a flash of frustration, but quickly swallowed it down. It wouldn't serve their purpose to focus on what others might say. This is about survival. We can't afford to be self-conscious about our situation. We have to lean on each other and the knowledge we can tap into, she asserted, her voice steadying. Claire nodded, though uncertainty still lingered in her eyes. Emma noticed how Claire hesitated, unwilling to fully commit to the prospect of collaboration, even when logic dictated that it was their best option. "Why are you worried?" Emma asked, wanting to dig deeper. "Is it about trusting him or about us being open to help?" "It's complicated," Claire sighed. "Part of me thinks we could really benefit from the expertise, but another part fears we'll be seen as failing, like we can't make it on our own." That reflection hit Emma hard. She understood that feeling intimately. The notion that accepting help implied weakness was a burden both sisters carried. Yet she felt a distinct shift within herself as acceptance washed over her. What if we turned this around? Accepting help doesn't mean we're incapable. It means we're willing to learn and grow. For a moment, Claire simply stared at her, realization dawning. "You're right. I never thought of it that way." Emma refocused on their goals. "Let's write out what we want to gain from the meeting with him. Clear expectations will help alleviate any fear about the collaboration." Together, they began jotting down their objectives: valuation of assets, marketing insights, pest management techniques, and even financial projections. With every item that filled the page, Emma felt the mist of fear dissipate, replaced by the sharper clarity of purpose. They were no longer just reacting to their circumstances, they were crafting their path forward. Later, standing beside the weathered barn door, Emma watched Claire stepping into the wooden enclosure to check on the animals. As her sister coaxed the chickens, Emma felt a flicker of pride. They were in this together, supporting each other in a way that bolstered their spirits. But even as they fostered hope, Emma sensed the pressure of the impending audit looming closer in the shadows, a reminder of the stakes involved. Suddenly, the thought hit her. What if we actually documented our progress and setbacks as we go? We could come clean about our struggles at the farmers' meeting, share our journey, and show how we apply the rancher's insights. Claire turned, her eyes lighting up. "That sounds bold. It could humanize our story, show others the reality of running a failing business." Emma smiled, feeling that surge of energy once more. The narratives they crafted wouldn't just be about them, they could resonate with others facing similar hurdles. With the day unfolding, all her plans swayed between excitement and doubt. They hinged on factors outside her control. Just as Emma began to feel a sense of acceptance, her phone buzzed, a notification that shattered the moment. It was a message from an anonymous source demanding answers to their financial misconduct, an email warning that they were being scrutinized more than they believed. Emma's heart dropped, a cold shiver racing across her spine. As the looming audit approached, she knew now was not merely a test of her capability, but an outright confrontation with her fears and choices. Emma turned to Claire, determination renewed. "It's time we faced everything head-on. Let's prepare for the farmers' meeting and what comes after this anonymous threat. We have no time to waste." The stakes had never felt higher. The next step would indeed be a test,
not just of their professional resilience, but of their courage to confront the haunting shadows of failure. Would they stand firm together, embracing adversity, or would uncertainty pull them apart?
Emma felt the chill of reality seep deeper into her bones as she and Claire prepared for the meeting that loomed over them like a storm cloud. The morning blurred into afternoon, and the weight of the looming audit pressed heavily on her mind. She hadn't anticipated that the pressure would intensify as their discussions had shifted from mere collaboration to confrontation with their vulnerabilities. "Claire, think about what we need to say at the meeting," Emma urged, trying to focus the whirlwind of emotions swirling in her mind. "We have to be transparent about our struggles before this anonymous source can expose them." Claire nodded, her fingers dancing nervously over the cup of coffee that had gone cold. "I know we should, but what if they don't understand? What if they judge us more harshly for being candid?" Emma grasped the edge of the table, forcing herself to stay steady. They had talked at length about the importance of honesty both in their relationship and their livelihoods, but as the looming anonymous threat became more significant, their resolve began to falter. It was one thing to show courage in private, another to do so before an audience. "Then we explain that vulnerability takes strength," Emma paused, allowing her words to sink in. "Opening up could shift the perception. We're all in this together, and presenting our story might resonate with others facing similar challenges." She watched as Claire processed this, eyes narrowing with contemplation. They were at a crossroads where every decision carried weight. Emma felt the pull of doubt, but quelled it by envisioning the ranch's future. A transparent narrative could foster unexpected connections. Determination kindled within Emma, igniting her words. "The rancher can't just be a figurehead for advice. He should be part of our story and the movement toward clear change. Maybe others are afraid to accept help like we were. We can break that stigma." Claire's posture shifted, and Emma saw the flicker of resolve ignite in her sister's expression. "So we frame this as a learning opportunity?" "Exactly," Emma said, appreciating Claire's gradual transition from hesitation to readiness. "Let's showcase our progress and document our strategies openly. It'll humanize us and shed light on our efforts." As they moved to flesh out their narrative, Emma's phone buzzed again. Hesitant, she checked the incoming message. This time it was from the rancher they had been considering as a mentor. The invitation for a preliminary discussion about the meeting was encouraging, but it also signaled that they couldn't postpone their preparations any longer. They had to act, and fast. "Claire," Emma began, suddenly aware of the urgency, "we need to draft our presentation now. We'll outline our achievements and setbacks. Each point will serve as both a record of our journey and a catalyst for others like us." Claire was finally engaged, enthusiasm lighting her features. "And we can practice articulating these points perfectly before the meeting. Maybe we can even prepare a handout." As they gathered their papers and notes, Emma felt her anxiety transform into an electric energy. Each moment spent strategizing shifted her perception of the audit. It wasn't just a test, it was a chance to redefine what it meant to lead their ranch and inspire resilience in others. Their voices echoed in the quiet barn as they crafted their story, drawing from personal struggles, insights gained from the rancher's email, and candid reflections. Yet the lurking threat of that anonymous message lingered at the back of Emma's mind. This confrontation was not just about the public meeting's outcome, it was about facing the unknown enemy threatening to undermine their integrity. Would their transparent narrative be strong enough to weather the scrutiny? With each stroke of the pen, Emma realized they were not just writing their ranch story, they were also writing the unfolding chapters of their lives, converging toward a climactic point of reckoning. As they neared the end of their preparations, a profound sense of urgency enveloped her. "Are you ready for this?" Claire asked, a hint of her old hesitation creeping back. Emma turned to her sister, heart racing. "We aren't just fighting for the ranch anymore. We're fighting for ourselves, together."
The moment was palpable, a mix of fear and faith. They were about to confront the very essence of their identity as ranchers and as sisters. But with the shadow of the anonymous threat still hanging overhead, the hardest part lay ahead. In the depths of Emma's mind, Emma realized they had the chance to not only save the ranch, but also uncover hidden strengths they never knew they possessed. The thought was exhilarating, yet daunting. How could they prepare for the real battle that awaited them? Emma's heart raced as she inhaled deeply, the sense of determination bubbling beneath the surface. Time felt like it was slipping away, each tick of the clock reminding her of the meeting just hours away. She looked towards Claire, whose brows were furrowed in concentration, the sheets of paper scattered across the table like remnants of their labor. They had laid out the foundation of their presentation, yet uncertainty pulsed in the air. "Let's go through it one more time," Emma proposed, urging Claire to refocus. "We need to own our story." "Right," but her voice longed for more confidence. Emma sensed it was the flicker of fear that held her back, a fear neither of them could afford to nurture. In a moment of inspiration, Emma reached for a couple of note cards they had prepared earlier. "Here, let me take the lead. I'll start with our challenges, our missteps, and what we've learned from them." Emma felt a rush of vulnerability surge through her as she spoke. It was raw, but it was precisely what they needed.
The walls around their fears began to crumble as she continued, detailing the struggles with finances, the setbacks with livestock, and their deep-rooted fears of inadequacy. Each statement poured out with visceral honesty, reflecting their journey. Emma could see Claire's shoulders relax, her gaze shifting from doubt to acknowledgement. "Your honesty is powerful," Claire said, her voice steadied. "It's real. It reminds us that we're not alone in this." As they exchanged roles, switching between highlighting their struggles and their triumphs, Emma began to notice something different happening within herself. Each narrative of overcoming their fears became a testament to her own resilience. Perhaps vulnerability wasn't solely a sign of weakness, it could also channel strength. "Let's also highlight the rancher's support system," Claire suggested. "We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his insights. That could help us illustrate our journey in context." Emma nodded, taking Claire's suggestion to heart. They spent moments discussing their mentor's impact, how his guidance had shifted their mindsets from isolation to interdependence. They were redefining their community narrative, acknowledging the influence of others in their lives, a striking juxtaposition to the anonymous threat that loomed. "Claire," Emma said, her tone shifting to urgency, "what if we use that anonymous threat to our advantage? Instead of letting it intimidate us, we can explicitly mention it during the meeting. We can show it as proof of why our vulnerability is essential, why our story matters." Claire's eyes widened, the idea dawning on her amidst the whirlwind of thoughts. It could position us as not only honest, but also fearless. By exposing that fear, we reduce its power, and it becomes part of our narrative. "Yes," Emma responded, excitement bubbling forth. "It transforms that unknown enemy into a catalyst for change and growth. It could actually rally support." As they deepened their discussion, Emma felt the rush of possibility enveloping her, emboldening her spirit. This battle was hers to win, not just for the ranch, but for her personal growth, her sisterhood, and her burgeoning agency. By the time they finished their presentation draft, the impending meeting now felt less like a suffocating weight on their shoulders and more like a platform for liberation. Emma caught Claire's eye, recognizing a resolve reflected back that hadn't been there before. They were no longer viewed as two nervous sisters fighting against an unseen force. They were pioneers, ready to chart their course. As they prepared to leave for the meeting, a final wave of apprehension crashed over Emma. She couldn't shake the feeling that something crucial remained unfinished within her, perhaps a lingering doubt about facing the anonymous source directly.
What if the source exposed their vulnerabilities before they could articulate their own narrative?
"Whatever happens in there," Emma said, looking earnestly at Claire, "we can't forget that our story belongs to us. This is our moment." Claire took a deep breath. "And I'm ready to face whatever comes, together." With that shared determination, they stepped out into the brisk air, hearts steeling for the confrontation ahead. As Emma approached the meeting room door, she felt the weight of her revelation. The person willing to face the truth might be the one she was still discovering. This was just the opening act in a story more complex than either had anticipated. Suddenly, a text message alerted her phone, interrupting the weight of their shared moment. Emma opened it, discovering the anonymous source had issued a cryptic warning of their own. The time had come to face not only their fears, but also the unexpected adversary waiting in the shadows. Would their carefully crafted narrative withstand the impending storm? Emma's heart pounded as she and Claire stepped into the meeting room. The air felt electric, crackling with anticipation and anxiety. She could see various stakeholders already seated, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. This was it, the moment of truth. As Emma settled into her chair, she felt a wave of nausea. The text message from the anonymous source played on repeat in her mind. Who were they? What would they say next? She directed herself to focus. This moment was meant to be theirs, a culmination of everything they had overcome. The presentation stood as both armor and weapon, a way to present their realities and rewrite the narrative imposed upon them. "All right, let's begin," the chairperson said, a commanding presence that sliced through the tension. Emma exchanged a glance with Claire, who nodded with tentative resolve. As they stood to present, Emma took a deep breath, allowing the vulnerability they had crafted earlier to embolden her. "Thank you for giving us this opportunity," Emma started, her voice surprisingly steady. "We're excited to share our journey on the ranch, the challenges we've faced, and how we've turned those into opportunities for growth." Claire jumped in seamlessly, recounting their initial struggles with livestock and finances. Emma watched as Claire's confidence started to build. She poured her heart into recounting the support they received from their mentor. Their story evolved from their personal struggle to a broader narrative that illustrated resilience through community connection. As they detailed their journey, Emma noticed the responses around the table, a furrowing of brows here, nodding there, shifted body language. They were listening, and in that moment, Emma felt a surge of collective purpose between them and the audience. This wasn't just about the ranch anymore. It was about facing fears, challenging norms, and owning their futures. Then came the moment Emma had been anticipating, with equal parts excitement and trepidation.
"Our narrative includes an anonymous threat," she said, her voice rising slightly. "At first, it instilled fear, but the truth is, it has also galvanized us. We refuse to let that anonymity dictate our story, and instead, we will embrace it." The shock across the room was palpable. Emma quickly pressed on. "By exposing our vulnerabilities, we render the threat powerless. The fear we've encountered should not isolate us, it brings us together. This journey is as much about you as it is about us." Emma paused, feeling her chest tighten. She wanted to ensure they understood the stakes. They were not merely two sisters fighting a faceless enemy. They were part of a bigger conversation about vulnerability, success, and the nature of support. "Whatever happens," Emma continued, locking eyes with Claire, "we invite you to join us in reclaiming our narrative. We stand ready to build something stronger, together." The room was silent, emotions swirling as her words hung in the air. Emma's heart raced. Had she pushed hard enough? Had she truly put everything on the line? Just then, the chairperson leaned forward, eyebrows raised. "You've brought up an interesting point about fear as a motivator, but tell me, are you really prepared for what might come next? What if your adversary is not just anonymous, but personally connected to your efforts? Emma's mind sparked with possibilities, the suggestion heavy with implication. Guilt stung her momentarily. She hadn't considered that. The realization that the source may hold a mirror to their own vulnerabilities felt like an echo of the very fears they were trying to counter. "Our narrative includes an anonymous threat," she said, her voice rising slightly. "At first, it instilled fear, but the truth is, it has also galvanized us. We refuse to let that anonymity dictate our story, and instead, we will embrace it." The shock across the room was palpable. Emma quickly pressed on. "By exposing our vulnerabilities, we render the threat powerless. The fear we've encountered should not isolate us, it brings us together. This journey is as much about you as it is about us." Emma paused, feeling her chest tighten. She wanted to ensure they understood the stakes. They were not merely two sisters fighting a faceless enemy. They were part of a bigger conversation about vulnerability, success, and the nature of support. "Whatever happens," Emma continued, locking eyes with Claire, "we invite you to join us in reclaiming our narrative. We stand ready to build something stronger, together." The room was silent, emotions swirling as her words hung in the air. Emma's heart raced. Had she pushed hard enough? Had she truly put everything on the line? Just then, the chairperson leaned forward, eyebrows raised. "You've brought up an interesting point about fear as a motivator, but tell me, are you really prepared for what might come next? What if your adversary is not just anonymous, but personally connected to your efforts?" Emma's mind sparked with possibilities, the suggestion heavy with implication. Guilt stung her momentarily. She hadn't considered that. The realization that the source may hold a mirror to their own vulnerabilities felt like an echo of the very fears they were trying to counter. As murmurs filled the room, Emma could feel the weight of that revelation shift everything she had just shared. How much of their journey had been shaped by others? Would this revelation hinder or propel them forward? Would they now be seen as victims, or could they maintain their narrative as fearless pioneers of change? Ready or not, Emma thought fiercely, this is just the beginning. The tension in the room thickened, and Emma wondered if they would find the strength to face what lay ahead. But one thing was clear, the anonymous threat was just the catalyst for a deeper exploration. Would they emerge victorious, or would their fight spiral into a more profound confrontation than they had ever anticipated? Emma's pulse quickened, but she maintained her composure. The chairperson's challenge hung heavily in the air, piercing the hopeful buoyancy that had gathered during their presentation. What if the very people they were trying to engage held secret ties to their anonymous source? Who could they trust? Had they been placing their fate in those who in reality sought to undermine them? "Interesting point," Emma replied, her voice calm, though internally she swirled with uncertainty. "We know that our story has drawn attention, both positive and negative, and we understand the complexities involved.
Our narrative is built not just on challenges, but also on solidarity." "Solidarity or not," the chairperson interjected, "what do you intend to do about it? Confronting a hidden enemy requires preparation. It requires insight into who it is you're dealing with, especially if it's someone close to home." Emma shifted in her seat, the weight of the implications settling in her gut. She gripped the edges of the table, reminding herself that her uncertainty could serve as fuel. Claire caught her eye, and Emma could see the same questions reflected in her sister's gaze. Together, they had thrived on the unknown, allowing it to enhance their resilience. But was this different? Would they crumble under the pressure? She took a deep breath and pressed forward, releasing the tension that sought to coalesce in her bones. Exactly. We refuse to be victims of circumstances. If our adversary derives power from obscurity, we will bring that power into the light. A murmur rippled through the stakeholders. Emma leaned in, sensing their curiosity shifting towards engagement.
Knowledge is a weapon. We will actively seek to uncover the reality behind the threat, rather than cower in fear. Our journey has equipped us with a tenacity to confront competing narratives head-on. Have you considered that some secrets might come from someone you trust dearly? Interjected another stakeholder, skepticism laced into every word. Emma's heart raced at the thought. The very fabric of their lives had been woven with trust. What if one of their allies was, in fact, a foe? The idea made her nauseous, yet it struck a chord. If we are to rebuild our narrative, we'll need to question everything, even the foundations upon which we've built our relationships, her voice finding a steadiness that surprised even her. Claire's hand brushed against Emma's, and their solidarity felt palpable. They would confront whatever lay ahead together, forming a united front against ambiguity and betrayal. As the discussion deepened, Emma realized that the core of her development lay not merely in the ranch or its operations, but in her ability to communicate effectively under pressure. Each interaction on the floor became a practice ground where she honed her skills, not just in presenting information, but in navigating complex relationship dynamics. With each challenge, she guided her responses back towards empowerment, both for herself and Claire, transforming fear into opportunity. By the end of the presentation, a newfound determination spread across their audience. Questions transformed from accusatory to inquisitive. Excitement began to flicker in the eyes that previously held skepticism. Emma felt her voice gaining strength, her capacity for leadership expanding like the vast horizon that stretched across the ranch, full of possibility. As they wrapped up their talk, the chairperson shifted his demeanor. "You've certainly sparked an interesting dialogue."
We'll need to reconvene for further discussions regarding your future plans, especially considering what we've learned about potential threats. Emma nodded resolutely, but the moment she stepped outside, a wave of doubt washed over her. How could they truly embrace the unknown and still remain unscathed? Their journey unfolded in unexpected twists. Clarity beckoned even as shadows loomed. Would they have the resolve to navigate the fractured pieces of their relationships? What if the quest for answers pushed them further into a web of deceit? Emma closed her eyes, envisioning the path ahead, knowing full well that the trials were just beginning. And yet there was one lingering question that echoed in her mind. What if the confrontation lay not just with the anonymous foe, but with the very people they had rallied around them? Emma stepped away from the gathering, her footsteps slow as she processed the tumult of thoughts swirling in her mind. The cityscape loomed above, a stark contrast to the pastoral tranquility of the ranch. Each towering building was emblematic of the challenges they faced, an unyielding reminder of the complexities of trust that lay ahead. Back in her office, the walls felt both suffocating and familiar. She sank into her chair, staring at the flickering screen of her laptop, its glow illuminating a path of ideas yet unrealized. The looming threats took on a different shape under the sterile light. Trust simmered in her veins, an urgent need to confront her fears, to establish control over the narrative spinning out of reach. She opened a new document, confronting the cacophony of emotions blended with determination. Point by point, she mapped out her thoughts, exploring the dots connecting their current predicament. The tension brought forth useful insights. Embracing the anxiety became part of her strategy. They needed a plan that went beyond mere survival. The enemies hidden in shadows would only grow bolder unless challenged directly. Research was paramount.
Emma began investigating their allies, looking for inconsistencies in their stories and motives. She flipped from partnerships to financial ties and unspoken relationships, scouring emails and documents. Each line reminded her of the importance of understanding her surroundings, the significance of knowing whom to trust, and to never take situations at face value. Claire hovered in the doorway, her presence grounding in a way Emma desperately needed. "What's on your mind?" Claire asked, concern etching her features. "Unraveling layers," Emma replied, her gaze retaining the intensity of her internal struggles. "If there are hidden dangers among us, we have to prepare ourselves to confront them, not just in public eyes, but also within our circle. What if," she hesitated, stepping inside, "what if we trusted the wrong people?" Emma felt the weight of her sister's words. "That's exactly what worries me."
I think we should meet with everyone separately, gather insights, and assess where their loyalties truly lie. Claire raised an eyebrow, impressed. That could expose us, especially if someone senses we're questioning them. Exactly, Emma said, her excitement blending with fear. But we owe it to ourselves to understand the truth. We can't be blind to the possibility that our closest friends could be playing both sides. The idea of isolating their allies was terrifying, yet ignited a flicker of courage within Emma. With each examination of their relationships, she sensed a new capacity brewing inside her, a vigor that embraced action over trepidation. "What if we find something we're not ready to face?" Claire pushed, her skepticism reflecting Emma's own underlying anxiety. "That's a risk I'm willing to take. We can't move forward shrouded in doubt. Confrontation means growth," Emma asserted, her voice laced with newfound conviction. "If we refuse to engage with the truth now, it only festers and weakens us." As the evening shadows stretched into long fingers across their office space, Emma plotted each meeting and the insights they would require. The conversation took on a life of its own, weaving through possibilities and strategies like an intricate tapestry of resolve. But with each defined strategy came the unsettling thought: what if the confrontation revealed something deep-seated, tangled in their history? As they aligned their approach, a looming fear persisted. The very relationships they had valued might fracture, leaving them exposed to an even greater threat. What lay beyond the necessity of facing truths? Emma's heart raced at the thought, the weight of the pursuit intertwining with her desire for clarity. And with this decision, the ultimate revelation sparked. They would either emerge stronger or risk losing everything they had built. But was she truly ready for what the upcoming confrontations might unveil? The rush of uncertainty morphed into a stark reminder of just how fragile their world had grown. Would they stand resilient, or would past loyalties betray them? As she sat in her office, the stakes sharpened to an edge. The moment to uncover hidden truths rushed nearer, a hesitant advance into the heart of resistance. Emma needed to gather her strength, because the next confrontation would not just ripple through their friendships, it could shatter foundations she had fought hard to build. Emma stood at the ranch gate, the evening sun dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. It felt like a fitting backdrop to the culmination of her journey, a journey that had transformed her from a hesitant caretaker of their family legacy into a determined advocate for its future. Each challenge had been met with resilience that at times had surprised even her. Weeks had passed since the fateful meeting, and the shadows of their anonymous adversary had begun to recede, slowly but surely. The sisters had confronted the underlying tensions in their relationships, revealing loyalties and secrets that had, in some cases, strengthened their alliances, and in others, taught painful lessons about trust. Emma had forged strategic partnerships, each one reinforcing their mission to reclaim their ranch.
With a growing sense of confidence, she pushed open the ranch house door and stepped inside, greeted by the smell of baking bread and the warmth of Claire's laughter. They had recently secured a local farmer's grant and integrated their mother's traditional farming methods with modern practices, setting the stage for a sustainable model that was earning recognition in their community. The dream was now blossoming, one based on ethics, dedication, and a genuine love for the land that defined them. "Emma, come here. You won't believe the responses we've received for our social media updates," Claire exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. They had invited followers along on their journey of revival, candidly sharing both setbacks and victories. Emma joined her sister at the kitchen table, where a laptop displayed a slew of comments and messages. "People actually appreciate our honesty," she marveled, her heart swelling with pride. "We are no longer just two struggling ranchers. We are part of something bigger." Claire nodded, enthusiasm edging into her voice. "And our story resonated with those who faced their own challenges. I received a proposal for collaboration with a group of local regenerative farmers." Collaboration! That's huge! Emma felt a rush of exhilaration. It was not just their individual narratives that were evolving, but a community was forming around the shared idea of resilience. They had transitioned from victims of circumstance to pioneers of change, a testament to their hard-earned growth. That evening, over dinner, Claire proposed an idea that struck a chord deep within Emma. What if we host a community open house, share our successes, invite local people to visit and learn about regenerative farming practices? They should see what's possible when you face hardship with resolve. The thought ignited a fire within Emma. We can even include workshops, show them how we've implemented sustainable practices. It could inspire others to reclaim their stories too. The open house took shape quickly, fueled by the sisters' newfound sense of purpose and the community's palpable support. Invitations sent, preparations made, and with each passing day, Emma felt herself stepping further into her role, not just as a steward of the land, but as a champion of change. The day of the open house finally dawned, bright and clear. Emma stood at the entrance, greeted by a gathering crowd of neighbors, fellow farmers, and curious onlookers. She noticed beams of recognition from their previous skeptics, now mingling with those who were willing to give them a chance.
As we share our journey with you today, I want you to know this isn't just about us, Emma addressed the crowd, her voice steady and powerful. It's about all of us in this community who dare to stand against adversity and speak our truths. Everyone has a story. Some are painful, some inspiring, but every single one teaches us something valuable. We've learned from our setbacks and found hope amidst uncertainty. As she spoke, Emma felt the weight of their past melt away. Mistrust had been replaced by collaboration, insecurity replaced with a solid sense of competence. Through grit and vulnerability, she had grown into her own skin, her voice steady and her larger vision clearer. That afternoon, as people gathered around the fields, sharing ideas and experiences, Emma beamed with satisfaction. The legacy of their family was not only preserved, it was flourishing, intertwined with the lives of others who were ready to forge their own paths of resilience. Hand in hand with Claire, they looked out over the crowd together, an entire community blossoming into the light of possibility. In that shared moment of triumph, Emma realized how far they had come, how the stories of their struggles had created bridges where walls had once stood. Tonight, instead of feeling defeated or small, she felt empowered, capable, and profoundly connected. They had emerged not just as survivors, but as influential figures bound by the land and the stories it held. The ranch was more than just a piece of land. It was a testament to their growth, determination, and sheer willpower. Emma took a deep breath, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. They had transformed fear into strength and shame into a badge of honor. So often it was fear that held her back, but now she understood that true achievement stemmed from embracing the tumult, facing challenges head-on, and allowing oneself to grow through adversity.
Emma had transcended her vulnerabilities to become a potent force for change, not only for herself and Claire, but for their entire community. With every step forward, she realized that the most significant transformation lay not in the triumph over the ranch's financial future, but in the profound growth within her, the kind of growth that forged unbreakable bonds and endless new possibilities. Emma had emerged not only as a caretaker of her family legacy, but as a symbol of hope and resilience for all. Now was the moment to act. If you want to join Emma on her journey and witness more incredible personal transformations, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. And remember to leave a like to feed the algorithm and comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your engagement matters and helps us keep these powerful stories alive.